opportunity to work for the Indigenous peoples in this place. As a land-grant institution, we pay our respects to the ancestors, elders, and our relatives and relations past, present, and emerging. And if you will click on the link or use your whichever device to scan the QR code, you can find resources for the territory of the acknowledgement that you might reside over, and also for this statement.
Alrighty, hi everyone. So Black Lives Matter. To our students and colleagues in the Black community and across the diaspora, we stand with you. You are valued and an important member of our on and off campus family. We all need to acknowledge the challenges and work to change them. We must work together as BIPOC and allies, people who are concerned about our future, to eliminate these systematic disparities. We take a stand today and always because Black Lives Matter. And again, for more information, go ahead and please visit the website there or scan the code.
Morning, everyone. We will also like to acknowledge our solidarity with the Asian Pacific Islander communities. CCCP condemns hateful acts of violence, harassment, and rhetoric targeting Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, and Desi Americans. As a community, we recognize that these are not isolated events. Since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, there has been an alarming increase in the amount of discrimination and violence perpetrated on the APITA community. These acts of violence are nothing new, as we all know the long history of dehumanization, ostracization, and exclusion of the Asian community remain devastating, particularly in the midst of a global pandemic that has lasting social, physical, and economic impacts. As a community, we are disturbed by these xenophobic, racially motivated attacks. We at CCCP stand in solidarity with all of our students, colleagues, and community partners who experience marginalization and threats. CCCP reaffirms our commitment to our entire community of scholars united to addressing these injustices, recognizing stereotyping, othering, and engaging in anti-racist practices that empower and support our students' educational goals and affirm the intersections of identities in academia.
So good morning, everyone. We just wanted to do a quick introduction of our full-time staff. Many of us have already introduced ourselves on the call. There is a team, and it takes a village for us to do the work that we do. So as you can see by our photo, there are 13 of us who are full-time staff members. Majority of us are transfer students, and we all operate in different capacities here at the center. So we just wanted to do a quick introduction and recognition of all the work that goes into how to makes these things happen. So. And again, our student staff, we would not be anything without our student staff. Our student staff is what makes this machine work. Many of them are behind the scenes today. Many of them are not with us today because they are also in classes and involved in a whole host of a number of things. But just so you all know, we employ over 60 student staff in our office, who majority of them serve as peer advisors. Some of them serve in other capacities in our office, making sure that the administrative stuff gets done. We have our social media coordinators, co-coordinators. So it really does take a village to get this work done. So we want to acknowledge them and thank them for the work that they do in this space, because without them, we are nothing. And also just a really quick acknowledgement of the folks that participated in putting together today's event. Many of us have, again, introduced ourselves and give you kind of our narratives and our background. So just wanted to let you all know who, kind of responsible for making this all happen alongside all of you who are joining us today. And lastly, just a really quick acknowledgement. We've been kind of going through this in the chat, but if you're just joining us or you received the link from a friend said, hey, come check this out, and you didn't have an opportunity to register for the event, we would greatly appreciate if you could fill out that form. And again, we'll continue to drop the link in the chat as folks continue to join us throughout the day. But if you can please fill that out, just so for a couple of different reasons, so that if you are a scholar, you can receive credit for attending today as a webinar credit. And also, if you're new to the CCP space, we want to make sure that we're connecting with you for future events, and also when our applications open up in the next couple of days, so that we can get that information out to you so you can join the CCP community officially.
Hello, everyone. So I'm gonna go over the community guidelines. So Q&A questions will be answered during the Q&A and by email. Our email is cccp@college.ucla.edu regarding etiquette. So etiquette in the net, respect the cyber community. Microphones, please keep mics muted and click on the speaker view. Questions, if you have any questions, feel free to utilize the chat feature. We have awesome staff monitoring the chat. So you could go ahead and just leave your question in the chat and someone will respond. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So this has been the hot question of the day, which is what is the agenda? So I'm excited to share it with you all. So we just went over the 10 to 11 meet and greet with CCP staff. It kind of ended up being a Q&A, which was awesome. I love the activity in the chat. From 10:05 to 10:05. From 11:05 to 11:15, we are doing the welcome. 11:15 to 11:45, admissions will be joining us. Then 11:50 to 12:45, the moment you've all been waiting for, the department breakout rooms. We will have so many departments joining us, over 30 departments. So we're extremely grateful for all of our campus partners who will be joining us today. 12:50 to 1:20, we will be transitioning to a student panel. So we have some really great students coming and talking to you, including some of our peer advisors. So please stick around for that. And lastly, we will be having our closing from 1:20 to 1:30, and we'll be doing a raffle giveaway. So please stay the entire time, stay and get some free stuff. We are going to be doing a giveaway. So this is the agenda for the day. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, but we're really excited for today. I already said, I was like, wait, I was already ahead of it. I was like, get free stuff. And I thought I was done. And there's actually a whole slide to tell you again, you can get free stuff. There's free swag. I don't even know what it is. That's how good the swag is going to be. They won't even tell us because they don't want us to be a part of it. I'm just kidding. We're streaming live on YouTube. Everyone's like, what is she talking about? It's going to be really good stuff. Please stick around the whole time. We're really excited to announce what it's going to be. And this will be announced at the end at around 1:20.
All right. So thank you for bearing with us. I'm really proud of us, y'all. We got through that very quickly. We had a lot of announcements, and usually we can talk. If you're new to the CCP family, you know that we can talk and we love to chat and connect with folks. So it is a pleasure and a privilege to have admissions join us. Our partners over at UCLA Undergraduate Admissions, who we collaborate with and do lots of great work. I like to say we co-conspire with them to support our transfer students, and I mean that in the best way possible. At this time, I'd love to introduce Erica Perez, who is joining us from UCLA Undergraduate Admissions. She is a partner and a colleague and a friend, a transfer student herself, proud parenting student. And I'll let her finish her bio and her introduction. But at this time, I'd like to invite Erica to share her screen and to join us. Thank you for being with us, Erica.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. That was a beautiful introduction, Jules. So much. Thank you, Santi, all of you in the chat function. Let's go ahead and get started. But before I do, just reintroduce myself. My name is Erica Perez. I am one of the assistant directors of transfer recruitment at UCLA. Just as Jules said, I myself was a transfer student too. So I don't know if we have any Huskies here from ELAC. I'm a Husky alum, transfer from East Los Angeles College, product of the UC system as well. But so happy to be here with you all this morning to share with you all a little bit about transfer admissions. You know, there's a lot of information to give you all. Second, there's a lot for you to learn and take it back to the colleges that you're going to be serving, working with students. So just, if you have any questions throughout this presentation, let me know, or you can go ahead and save them towards the end, and I'll be more than happy to answer them as we go along. Feel free to use the chat feature. And again, here to assist you in any way that I can. Go Huskies. Okay, so let's get started. I see Randy, Clarissa. I see we have a lot of Huskies here, so super, super proud to see that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Just bear with me, give me 1 second. Let's see, here we go. Let me know if you are able to see it as, okay, there we go. Should be fine. Okay. Jules, are you able to see that?
I currently cannot see your screen.
Okay, let me get that going.
There
How
you
about
go.
now?
It's coming up now.
Cool, okay, awesome. All right, so let's get started. Give me a second. I'm gonna go ahead and have this open. Okay, are we able to see it?
Yeah, you're good, Erica.
Perfect. Okay. Again, today's session is really going to be focusing on transfer admission. So we're going to go over the admission process to transfer to UCLA. And then I'm going to go ahead and share with you all some resources available to you all so you can share with your students as well. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. And again, as I'm going, feel free to put your questions in the chat feature. And as I go, I'm going to try to pull them up, answer those questions, or you can also ask as we go towards the end. So thank you all so much for that participation. I see the yeses, the nos, the maybes. Appreciate you all. All right. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to go over requirements and selection criteria. What does that necessarily mean? There's two different terminologies that we use when we're looking at the applications. I'm going to go over choosing a major, right? How do, when students are curious about our majors, how to go about it, right? I'm going to review the UCLA holistic review process. That is technically the process that we use when we are reviewing transfer applicants. And lastly, I'm going to go ahead and share with you all UC application resources that a lot of you are probably familiar with already, since you have already been through the process, but then also resources that you can share with your students and, give them, what's the importance of these resources and why we recommend them to use these resources. Okay, so let's get started with, there we go, with the UC minimum requirements. So in general, in the entire UC system, there are a few requirements that we are looking for, and that is the minimum units. And every student should have 60 semester units, 90 quarter transferable units if they're coming from a quarter system school, which is most of the schools that are quarter system are in NorCal, and there's a few that are here in SoCal. So very important, remember that. Within the UC system, the minimum requirements, this is what all UCs look for. So the first step in when reviewing an application, we have to make sure that the student has the UC minimum requirements. And that is your minimum units, your 7-course pattern, and the minimum GPA of a 2.4. The 7-course pattern consists of your 2 transferable English courses, your 1 transferable math course, and your 4 transferable courses in 2 different areas. Again, the minimum GPA is a 2.4, but please keep in mind that these are UC minimum requirements that that all UCs have to screen for, right, when we're reviewing the application. So very important that the student meets these requirements to be eligible within the UC system, okay? And remember, please feel free to use the chat feature to ask any questions as you're thinking about these slides as I'm reviewing them. Now, in terms of UCLA selection criteria, there's a difference, right? There's a difference between the UC minimum requirements and UCLA selection. And what I'm referring to is specifically the major preparation courses that students have to complete prior to transferring. So one of the things that we highly encourage for students, right, preparing to be competitive applicants is they have to complete the major preparation. Depending, every major is very different. But just generally, they should complete as many major prep courses as possible prior to transferring based on the availability of courses at their current school. So some schools may offer all the major prep that they need, some schools may not. So if that is the case and you run, into a student who does not have all the major prep courses at their community college, it is super important that you recommend them to email one of the assigned reps so they can reach out to us and we can see what is the nearest community college near them so they can complete that course there. In addition to that, there are a couple majors that we do highly require major prep to be done by the end of fall. And those are 3 majors, okay? So these are gonna be good notes for you all. That's gonna be psychology, business econ, and econ. These 3 majors are highly selective majors under the College of Letters and Science. So it's very, very important that if you have students who are interested in these majors, we always recommend to try to have that major prep done by the end of fall prior to transferring. If not, it's okay if they complete everything by the end of spring, but we just really want to make sure that because these are very highly selective majors, they try to get as much major prep done completed. Again, for UCLA selection criteria, we do recommend for students to use the major prep resources, which is a transfer admission guide. I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the feature, in the chat feature for your reference. So that way you share this as well. And technically what this guide has is you're going to find the majors there and listed. All the major prep courses are going to be there. However, they will need to use assist.org to really look at the courses that articulate, right? So what is, for instance, ELAC, math, statistics, right? Math 227. What does that articulate to at UCLA? What does that cover? What major prep is it going to fulfill? So it's very important that they use assist.org. These are really great resources, but that does not replace, guidance, the guidance of a counselor. So very important that they also reach out to their community college counselor for advice. And in terms of major preparation, coursework, or maybe you may run into a student who has out-of-state coursework or UC to UC or CSU to UC. There's no, we don't have a direct articulation agreement, but we try to work with them at a one-on-one level to ensure that, we review the courses and kind of get an idea and a sense of what courses could possibly transfer. Unfortunately, we do not screen or review everything ahead. It's one of those things that when they apply, students that are applying from 4-year universities or UC to UC, it typically happens, the evaluation happens when and after they apply. But if they're curious to know, is this math going to satisfy the calculus course that maybe biology or psychology or one of those courses, then they can reach out to us and we can work with them directly. I see a few questions, so I'm going to take them as I go. What if you're taking the major classes a semester before transferring, spring 2021? Does that affect their decision in any way? It does not, Daniela, it does not. However, again, for those 3 majors, because they are highly selective, psychology, business econ, and econ, we just highly encourage them to have either everything completed by the end of fall or at least 1 major prep in progress pending in spring prior to transferring. If that's not possible, I mean, we do understand, right? A lot of things happen, and perhaps with this pandemic, there wasn't enough availability of courses. That's okay. But it's important that they state that on the application, just because, we want to make sure the student, lets us know it's not because they didn't want to enroll, but there was a shortage in courses or so. So that's one thing. And then Melinda, how do you apply for minors? Really great question, Melinda. So typically as a transfer student, you have to come in and choose 1 major. But for minors, you actually have to talk to the academic advisor for approval. We don't review that, right? And as I go through the slides, you will see that we don't review alternative majors unless a student is part of the Transfer Alliance program, which I will talk a little bit more about in the next slides. So if they're asking, how do I apply for minors? Just let them know if that's something that it has to be reviewed by the academic advisor, and then they go ahead and approve that. But it is possible to double major in minor as a transfer student. Minors are generally applied for up to, yes. Oh, thanks, Jules. I did not see that, but thank you. If you do not register for this event, okay, Perla, what about double majoring? Inessa, I hope I answered your question. You can, it is a possibility, but that's not under control, right? As admission counselors, we do not approve that internally. So once you are admitted and you meet with the academic advisor, they review your coursework and then they go ahead and approve or not approve. And then, is there a limit on majors and minors, or is it a matter of unit limits? You know what? That is a great question. And it is a matter of units, right? Depending on how many units you come with. But again, that's a conversation that the student has with the academic advisor. And then can someone get a general education degree? Yeah. I know a lot of these questions, for instance, do I need to get an AA degree? Is it okay if I just transfer and don't get one? That's absolutely fine. You can transfer in without it. So no worries. Those are really great questions, and I hope I answer those questions. So again, I'm going to go ahead and move forward, but as the questions come up, let me know. And then just real brief, for UCLA selection criteria, the minimum GPA is a 3.2. So very, very important, right? Unlike the UC minimum GPA, which is a 2.4, it's important that students have a minimum of a 3.2 or higher. But it really is for those students who are interested in the UCLA specialty schools. It's a little different because those GPAs range differently. And for communications is a minimum of a 3.7. Okay, so strongly recommend to surpass that minimum GPA of the major of your choice. All right. Okay, can I transfer after only one semester of community college? Dorcia, that's a really great question. For UCLA, we are only taking fall applicants. But if you have the units and you meet all the major prep requirements, and perhaps you have APs or IB exams, and they're giving you enough units to transfer, if you meet all of that, then you should be eligible. Again, highly recommend you work closely with your community college counselor just to ensure that you have all the requirements needed to be eligible. Okay. Okay. So again, oh, I think I froze a little. Okay, here we go. So highly selective majors. This is just a list of the highly selective majors at UCLA. So as you can see on your left, the College of Letters and Science, we offer more than 125 plus majors, and we have very popular majors. So very important. This slide is just to get an idea of the applications we have received for the following majors. This is not a slide to discourage you from applying. Let me just make that clear. It is just a slide for you all to get a sense of how many applications we receive for these highly selective majors. Under the College of Letters and Science, we have these 14 majors that are very popular, so we consider these highly selective. And for the specialty schools, anybody interested in the School of Engineering, Theater, Film, and Television, Arts and Architecture, School of Nursing, School of Music, those are all considered highly selective. So again, this is just a slide for you all to see the majors that we offer, but never to discourage you from applying. But we also like to share what other majors we have to offer, right? So we have all these popular highly selective majors, but we also have other great majors that are not often applied, right? And that does not make them worse than other majors. It's just these are other majors that are aligned with the highly selective majors. So we always like to inform applicants of other majors that are not highly selective that align with the highly selective major. Meaning, for example, a lot of the time students want to apply to the science majors, and the first thing that they think about is biology, right? Which is great, but we also offer other majors as the ones that you see listed under biology. So we have math and applied science, anthropology, molecular cell and development biology, microbiology, immunology, and molecular genetics. These majors are not highly selective, right? But they fall under the realm of biology, which is a highly selective major. So again, we always, we want to provide students with different alternatives for them to make choices. So these are some majors you can definitely explore. As you see, sociology, we have gender studies, Chicano studies, philosophy, communications, right? It's a highly selective major. So we could have linguistics, comparative literature, and then you see business and business econ. So math econ, Asian studies, European studies, these are majors that fall under the realm, but they are not highly selective majors. So the next slide, you're going to see the same thing. Okay, we have global studies, international development studies, and as you can see under that highly selective major, these are some majors that we recommend as well: English and psychology. So these are other examples for students to consider. Keep in mind that with these three majors, you can still work in labs, get involved in psychology, research, apply to psychology, research, and grad school. So major versus career, that's one thing that I always advocate for, just because sometimes you end up majoring in one thing, but that doesn't mean you're going to do, career-wise or long-term. So definitely explore all the majors we have to offer. Again, over 125 majors. So we highly encourage you to check out our other majors as well. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and get into what, we always get this question of, what do I need to do to be a competitive applicant at UCLA? How do you review applications? What are you looking for? And literally what we use is the UCLA holistic review process. And that consists of three components. That is the academic accomplishments of a student, your personal achievements, and the personal insight question. All of this is embedded in the UC application. So I'm going to go ahead and break it down for you all. And I know as I go, you're all going to have questions. So please use the chat feature to ask, and I'll go ahead and answer. And I see some questions, so let me follow up now. I'm currently taking late classes, but I wasn't able to report on my transfer academic update. Will I get a chance to add these classes later on? Yannette, yes, you can actually do that. I suggest two things. Because the transfer academic update, the deadline passed already, I strongly suggest you, for us at UCLA, if you go on the website, I'll put the link right now, just send us an email and let us know if your schedule changed, and we're gonna go ahead and modify and make those edits for you. And then I have Brian, I have sociology as my transfer major, but I also like working with people helping graduating a degree so I could get my credential. Yes, which we have a new major. I'm gonna get to that slide, I promise. I'm gonna get into the education slide. Are you able to switch majors after being admitted? Great question. I will be quite honest, it could be really challenging to switch majors once you're at UCLA. So I highly recommend, talk to your academic advisor, see the possibilities, but it's really difficult to change majors. Okay, I'll come back to your questions as I go, I promise. I'm gonna move on forward with the slide, and then maybe some of these questions that you all have, I'll provide you with an answer as I go with the slide. And if not, I'll come back to them. Okay, so as I was saying, the UCLA holistic review process, that's how we review the applications. I'm gonna go ahead and break it down for you all. I know this doesn't make sense right now, but I wanna make sure that when you leave this presentation, you have an idea of what we're looking for, okay? So the academic accomplishments, that's the first part, right, of the holistic review process. So we get your application, right? We get to know your name, who you are, a little bit of your background, a little bit of context, and then we go on to your academic accomplishments. And that is the 60 semesters, 90 quarter units, the completion of your 7-course pattern, the completion of major prerequisites, and the minimum GPA. So generally, those are the main requirements, right? Those are the minimum requirements that we're looking for, but then we're also looking at the major of your choice and the minimum GPA required. Again, recommending that you do surpass the minimum. So this is the first step when we're reviewing your application, okay? Making sure, do you have the 60 semesters units? Do you have the 90 quarter units if you're going to a quarter school? So very important for UCLA specifically, you have to have the 60 semester units, 90 quarter units by the end of fall, right? When you're submitting your application, very, very important that you have that because you have to be in junior level standing prior to transferring. All right. Okay. The next thing we're looking at is your personal achievements. So in this next part of your application, this is the personal achievement section. And this is that section where you have an opportunity to really talk about what you're doing outside of your academics. So technically, that is what we're looking for. We want to get a sense of who you are, right? We're going to get an idea of the classes that you have taken, your grades, but that's not all, right? We really want to get a sense of what you're doing outside of your academics. And this can look like a variety of things. So as you can see here, some of the things that are listed here are a few possibilities, but this can be from a part-time to a full-time job to family responsibilities. Perhaps you're taking care of siblings or loved ones. Maybe you're involved in school clubs, organizations, or any special talents that you may want to share with us. We're really looking at, what are you doing outside of your academics? We're not counting, right? We're not looking for specifics because one thing is we do understand that the transfer community is very diverse, right? Different background experiences. So we acknowledge that, and I want to make sure that you understand that anything you put on the application, we will account for. So very important. If you don't state it on the application, we're not going to assume and we're not going to know. So whatever you may be doing outside of your academics, again, that can be different possibilities, right? From a part-time to a full-time job. Sometimes students have 2-3 jobs and they're like, I haven't been involved in school or done anything, but I'm working, or that's still accounted for. If you received awards at your job, we still account that for. If you have honors, if you have whatever it may be, a community involvement, we are accounting for everything that you state on that application. So very, very important. And remember, your application is self-reported. So again, if you don't tell us, we don't know. So very important that you try to highlight yourselves. At the end of the day, this is your application. This is how you're advocating for yourself, right? And there's no right or wrong response in terms of what you're listing out. We're not looking for students who have a certain criteria, a certain amount of involvement. We're really looking and trying to understand you as an individual, as a student applying, and understanding your context and your background. So that's very critical. I see questions, so thank you all for your participation, but I'm going to go ahead and go through the slides and then I'll come back to them. Okay. Great questions. All right. So the person who asked questions, very popular, right? I'm sure a lot of you have questions about this part, and then generally is one of those parts in the application that stresses a lot of us out, right? So let me know in the feature, right? Is this something that creates a lot of, it's one of those things where like, what am I going to write? What do they want to see? What do they want to read? But this is the final part of when we're reviewing your UC application, right? So again, first is your academic accomplishments. Then we look at your personal achievements, and the last part is going to be your personal insight questions, also known as the PAQs. So in this part, you really have an opportunity to advocate for yourself, and you are required to answer one question. In addition, you choose 3 out of 7 questions. All the questions have the same value. Therefore, whatever question you choose is totally up to you, but we always recommend choose questions that best relate to you. Questions where you're able to really talk about yourself, provide examples, and just, think about it this way. If you're going to an interview, right, you're walking in there to get this interview for the interviewer to get to know you, who you are, right? We don't do interviews. However, through your application, we really get to know you a little more through the PIQs, right? Because that's like the one section where you really have the opportunity to tell us about you. We are looking for context. We're not looking for grammatical errors. So very important. A lot of the time students ask, is there specific words that you're looking for? We're not. We want to know, what do you bring to the university? Okay. Remember, you know yourself more than we know you. So you tell us about you. Very, very important. Again, this is your story to share to us. There's no right or wrong responses. This is your story of self. So very, very important. And as you can see here, some of the things you can talk about and your responses, you can talk about anything, how do you demonstrate drive? Determine your determination and willingness to succeed. Do you have any special circumstances that you want to share with us? Have you taken advantage of many opportunities? Have you been limited of opportunities? Have you been overcoming life challenges or obstacles? Any unique qualities or talents that you may have? This is also a great opportunity. So if you are involved with CCCP or Puente or EOPS or the Transfer Center or a club, any type of organization, you can actually talk about it here. Remember, there is 7 questions that you can choose from. So please, as you are working on these, very important, choose the questions that best resonate with you. And just a fun fact, you can reach out to us if you want to chat and see like, hey, Erica, or, transfer team, what do you all think? This is what I'm planning to write about. This is my outline. We come out to the Transfer Center, so we will be more than happy to help you out and guide you to ensure that, you feel secure and you feel safe to submit these responses. So that's one thing. And then I see some questions here, so thank you all for submitting them. Let's see. Any community service or community involvement is good. No such thing. Yes. Thank you, Cinnamon, for answering that. Thank you all for chatting back and forth. I have only been involved in a few programs and done community service, but not as much that can affect my application process. You know what? That's a really great question too. There again, we're not looking for a certain amount of, your involvement in organizations or whatever it may be. We're not looking for a set number. We're really looking, to understand you as a student, where you're coming from, what your background has been. We're going to understand the academics part, but then we also want to know what you're doing. We want to get to know more about you. So again, we're accounting for everything. So really, really important that you let us know on that application, list everything you want us to know, right? Because at the end of the day, once you submit that application, that's all we know about you, right? So again, To wrap up this section, this is your story. There are no right or wrong answers. So tell us what you need to tell us about you. And we're not looking for the grammatical errors, right? We're really looking to get to know you as a student through your application. All right. Okay. So next, you're going to see these are our specialty schools, something very different with our UCLA specialty schools. It is important to note that some of these schools require a supplemental application in addition to the UC application after you submit that application. So real quick, these schools actually review, right? So the first thing, you'll submit your UC application, and then you're going to have to submit an additional application known as the supplemental application. Each school here, with the exception of the School of Engineering, they will have you submit additional documentations, and it varies per school. So for instance, in the School of Music, as you see it listed here, the minimum is a 3.0 GPA. Their emphasis is on talent. And again, that's a school that you have to submit a supplemental application for. The School of Engineering, the minimum GPA is a 3.4. Their emphasis is basically on major prep, and you do not have to submit a supplemental application. For the School of Nursing, the minimum is a 3.5. They do emphasize on academics, but also service, right? Volunteer, all of that. And you do have to submit a supplemental application for that one. The Arts and Architecture, the minimum is a 3.0. They do emphasize on talent, and you do have to submit a supplemental application. Theater, Film, and Television, the minimum is a 3.2. Their emphasis is on talent, and you also have to submit a supplemental application. So if you are interested in any of these, I strongly recommend that you contact the schools directly, just because they will be able to answer those questions about the supplemental application and provide you with any any information regarding what they're looking for. If they're looking for additional rec letters, a portfolio, and audition, they'll be able to provide you with all that information. All right, and just real brief, we do have 2 new majors. We have the Education and Social Transformation. I know earlier in the chat, somebody was mentioning they were interested in education. So these are new majors. For the Education and Social Transformation, the minimum is a 3.2. Public Affairs, the minimum is also a 3.2. And as you see listed, we do recommend that you complete the AGETSI. However, there are no specific major prep courses yet, so we do want you to have at least the UC minimum requirements for these majors. All right. And here you're going to see the context of the UCLA specialty schools. So I would recommend take a photo, screenshot. Just make sure I'm smiling as you're screenshotting, right? I don't want to come out with that serious face. But this is what you have. Definitely recommend, again, reach out to them directly if you are interested in these specialty schools, because they will be able to answer those specific questions about the supplemental application. What are they looking for? How are they selecting their students? Because they are the ones who review those supplemental applications. All right. Okay, and here is another slide with contact information for School of Nursing, School of Education, Music, and Luskin Public Affairs. So I'll give you all about 2 seconds to screenshot this. All right. Okay, so AGETSI. Here, we always get that question of, do I need AGETSI to transfer, or will it affect my admission or hinder it in any way? So just real quick, completion of AGETSI satisfies the UCLA general education graduation requirements. So if the students have it, great, because then you will be done with graduation requirements. The majors within the College of Letters and Science, they do not require AGETSI, but we strongly recommend it. However, the Theater, Film, and Television and the School of Nursing, you have to have the AGETSI in order to be eligible. So very important. Those 2 require a student to have the AGETSI certification prior to transferring. So typically that's by the end of spring. Music, Arts and Architecture, Luskin Public Affairs, School of Education. It's encouraged, but if students don't have it, that's okay. That's not going to hinder an admission decision. And for School of Engineering, it is not recommended, simply because we understand that the student has a lot of courses to complete. So we really want them to focus on the major prep. But if you have the AGETSI, great. You get to satisfy UCLA general education graduation requirements. So real brief, a lot of the times we get asked, does UCLA review alternative majors? On the application, you're going to be able to see that you can select the major of your choice and alternatives. We do not review alternative majors. However, we do have a program, the UCLA Transfer Alliance program, also known as TAP. This is, with the completion of the honors program at a participating community college, you can select an alternative major. This is not a transfer guarantee program like TAG, right? We have UC TAG. It's not the same thing. This is not guaranteed, but this allows for us to review an alternative major within the College of Letters and Science. So the alternative major must be listed on the application. The alternative major cannot be a highly selective major, and the major prep should be completed for both majors, the major of your choice and your alternative major together. So on the next slide, you're going to see what are those restricted alternative majors. The highly selective majors you cannot select. So this is a list. Feel free to screenshot this and use this as a reference to kind of see what are those majors that you are not going to, that you can't select as an alternative. And this is that's the only thing. Anything outside of this, under the College of Letters and Science, you'll be able to select as an alternative major. Don't forget, you also have to have the major prep for that as well. Okay. And moving on, for the School of Engineering or any of our specialty schools, public affairs, or the new major, education and social transformation, these you cannot select these as alternative majors. All right. So here we have the UC application timeline, just again to get an idea, right? August 1st, application opens, is available online. Students start filing for FAFSA or DREAM Act and Cal Grant verification form as of October 1st, November 1st. You have the opportunity to start filing your UC application. January, transfer academic update. It's the sooner you submit that, you have until the for priority consideration, January 31st. Then late April, that's when UCLA admission decisions go out. And June 1st, deadline for admitted transfer students to submit their student intent to register. Okay. And just a big reminder, your transfer timeline does not have to be in 2 years. There is no single transfer path to UCLA. I want to really highlight that. So when you walk away with this, just take that into consideration. There is no single transfer pathway to UCLA. You do not have to transfer within 2 years, 3 years. That does not hinder your admission decision. We do not consider, and that's not a factor at all. So just know that the time that you take to transfer, you run your own race at your own pace, but we're here to support you along the way. So if you need us, if you want to chat with us, you will be able to reach out to us. I'm going to share the link in the next slide, so you'll be able to see how you can get a hold of us admission representatives. And then here on the slide, just real quick, UC application, again, one application for all UC campuses. For UCLA, we only do fall quarter, apply from November 1st to the 30th, and there are fee waivers available. Okay. The Transfer Admission Planner, TAP account, very awesome tool, recommended just because the entire UC system has access to this. So if you ever want to chat with us, all you do is enter your coursework, you track your own progress, and then we pull up your information, and we can kind of get a sense and an idea where you're at in terms of your GPA, what major prep courses have you fulfilled. So it's a really good tool for advising. And again, not just UCLA, but the entire UC has access to this. I would definitely recommend that you create a TAP account. And financial aid resources. We want to make sure that if you do come to our campus, you find different ways of paying for UCLA. So these are some resources that you can use. The Blue and Gold Opportunity Plan. If your family make less than $80,000 a year, you are eligible for the Blue and Gold Opportunity Plan, and that covers your tuition and fees, most of it, if not all, most of it. There's other ways. If you make above the $80,000, I believe it's, don't quote me, but I think it's up to $100-something thousand. There's also the middle class scholarship as well. So there are opportunities to pay for the UC system. So just know that if you do come, there are different ways to navigate and meet your financial needs. Okay. Just this slide, real brief. Use your transfer center, very important. Again, we go out to the transfer centers. We do one-on-one appointments, presentations, personal insight questions review. We try to work closely with the transfer center and your counselors. Visit our admission page for more information if you're looking to do like a guided tour campus tour where everything is being conducted remotely right now. So feel free to visit and visit the UCLA Undergraduate Admission Office contact page to see who is your rep. You can also find, if you want to learn more about the colleges, how many applications did they receive, how many were admitted, what was the GPA admit rate, you can get that information online. It's public. But again, don't let these numbers scare you. Okay, reach out to us. We're here to support you in any way that we can. And this is another page. This is what the admission representatives page looks like. You'll be able to get an idea and a sense of who your rep is. Okay. All right. And again, if you want to chat with us, if you want to see the transfer video that we have online, we definitely recommend it. Definitely look out for it. There's a lot of great information, and everything I reviewed right now is also available in that transfer video from the beginning to the end of the process of the holistic review as well. We have the UCLA Resources Digital Library. This is where you'll find all of the UCLA content, very good information. So we highly, highly encourage that you check that out. All right. And I'm going to put my name in the chat and my email. So if you have any questions, I am here to help. And I do see some questions. Jules, how are we in time?
We are actually over time currently.
Okay.
Done
deal. Wrapping it up.
No, Erica, thank you so much. You always, as usual, provided so much great information and just speaking to our students and their needs. So we appreciate you so much. Admissions will be joining us in the breakout sessions. So if you do have more specific or nuanced questions, I encourage you all to pop into that session as well. But I will let Perla take over and kind of give some guidelines as to what is happening next.